Welcome back. We're talking about suicide prevention. With us now are Barry Bryant and Leah Berry of Hopeline, and to both of you, welcome. Leah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a mental health therapist. I work in the Durham area, and I'm also on the Hopeline board, and I also participate in training some of the Hopeline volunteers.
Well, I think this would be a great segment then to talk a little bit. We touched on it in the first segment about depression, and talk a little bit about some of the warning signs for individuals who maybe are family members or friends. What should we be looking for?
Again, warning signs, we're thinking about changes in behavior or new behaviors. If someone's talking about wanting to die, that one would seem like an obvious one, but that lets you know that there may be more urgency with that. If they've stopped participating in activities that they previously enjoyed, they no longer enjoy, if they have isolated themselves from friends and family, things like that are some warning signs.
And I think I would add also that sometimes folks will try to make amends or to do tidying up or tying up loose ends that's out of character for what they normally do, giving away lots of things, giving their money away, those types of things, which is really hard to decipher sometimes, that you can see those behaviors at times when someone is not experiencing suicidality. So it's looking at the big picture, and if they have some predisposition and then you are seeing some smaller behaviors, then that might be a time to reach out and ask if that's what's happening for them.
Is behavior really the key? I remember as a young kid and not getting my way saying, I wish I were never born, for instance. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people say that and really mean it. I mean, do you take that, and I guess another way to put it is you side with the thought that that is a serious statement, or is there a time where you can clearly see it's just an attempt on the part of the individual?
I always err on the side of caution.
You do. Okay.
I think that's something that you absolutely don't want to dismiss a statement that is a true statement and dismiss it as a behavioral, reach or attention grabbing thing. And, I think it's worth asking what's going on for the person. And if you take it seriously, then they learn that their words are serious. Also, if that's not what they actually intended, then they learn that their words are serious. And so that's best case scenario, right? That they didn't really mean it. And worst case scenario, they are experiencing some suicidal thoughts. And then that might be a door opening to them getting the help that they need.
And to further on that, if someone said anything like that, I'm thinking about ending my life, or I'm not happy, I'm overburdened, anything like that on the crisis line, you wouldn't necessarily stop them in their tracks with that comment. You let them continue on, but you would write yourself a note or have a mental note to remind yourself to say, you said earlier that you were not happy here and you were wanting to end your life. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? You want them to elaborate. You want to know exactly what they're thinking, exactly how deep their sadness or loneliness or depression or whatever feelings they're having are. And that's key for you to examine that further and get information from them.
Now for our viewers, I'll ask the question because I think we probably already know the answer. Have things changed over the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years really? But more dramatically, I think with social media and how it impacts individuals. From cyberbullying, for instance, and if you're a family member or a parent, what do you do? What is the step you take in order to prevent something like a suicide?
I would say the first thing, that it is okay to ask questions. I think people are afraid to bring it up. It's a difficult topic to talk about. It's uncomfortable to talk about, and a lot of people can be scared that if they mention suicidality, that they will make the person suicidal. And so I think it's good to know that that is not the case, that research shows that mentioning it to somebody who is not suicidal doesn't make them suicidal. So I would say if you feel comfortable reaching out and talking to a person that you're concerned about, then doing that, and that's okay to say like, hey, I'm really concerned about you. These are the things that I'm seeing, and what can we do to help you? And can I help you get some help? And if a person doesn't feel comfortable doing that, then reaching out to the appropriate person in the concerned party's life. So that could be, you know, if you're a teenager, you might reach out to your friend's parent, for example, or a friend's spouse, something of that nature. The person that can get to your friend or loved one that you know can reach them the easiest.
And another thing that we think about when thinking about preventing suicide, we think about protective factors, those things that you can do to help someone like you're suggesting. And protective factors are those things you do to buffer an individual from having suicidal thoughts or suicidal behaviors. So when we think about that, we think about in their community, where your friend or your family member lives, are there clinical mental health, physical health, substance abuse disorder services that are available? And if they do exist, does the person you're caring about, do they have means to access those services? Do they have transportation? And if they have transportation and ways to get there, do they also have insurance, a way to pay for the service? So there are protective factors like that, and whether or not they have conflict resolution skills and things like that.
I know we're running short on time, and this is unfair, but there was just a young person who, in the news, committed suicide. I mean, and cyberbullying seems to be a really, really big deal right now. Do you run into that a lot? I mean, is it something that particularly parents ought to be concerned about?
We do run into that on the crisis line.
You do?
We do have people that call and repeatedly talk about that. And when we think about a risk factor, we think about things like harassment or cyberbullying. Any type of prolonged stress puts someone at a higher risk of wanting to die, wanting to attempt suicide, and things like that.
I got a lot more questions.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. And this is it's a very serious topic, but it's one that we really need to talk about. So stick around. We'll have more on this discussion when we come back after the break.